take the time to honor you. I just want to praise you. I just want to lift you. I just want to honor you for everything you've done. I just want to praise you. I just want to lift you. I just want to honor you for everything you've done. We worship you in spirit and in truth. 'Cause Father, we know there's nobody like you. Give you the glory, give you the praise, give you the honor in worshipful ways. We just want to take this time to say we love you. I just want to praise you. I just want to lift you. I just want to honor you for everything you've done. I just want to praise you. Father, I just want to lift you. I just want to honor you for everything you've done. We just want to praise you. We just want to lift you. We just want to honor you for everything you've done. Yeah, just want to praise you. Oh, just want to lift you. Just want to honor you for everything you've done. Just want to praise you. Just want to lift you. Just want to honor you for everything you've done. Whoa, just want to praise you. Just want to lift you. Just want to honor you for everything you've done. Say we just want to praise you. Whoa, we just want to lift you. Just want to honor you for everything you've done. Just want to praise you. Just want to lift you. Just want to honor you for everything you've done. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Yeah, I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. We just want to praise you. We just want to lift you. We just want to honor you for everything you've done. Yeah, we just want to praise you. Whoa, we just want to lift you higher. We just want to honor you for everything you've done. We just want to praise you. Just want to lift you. We just want to honor you for everything you've done. Just want to praise you. Ooh, just want to lift you. We just want to honor you for everything you've done. Yes. Amen, everybody. Thank y'all so much for joining in. I love y'all so much. Hey, Trina Trine. I see Trina Trine is in the house. She spoke with us last week. Wasn't she amazing, y'all? Didn't she kill it? Hey, Catherine. Great to see you, woman of God. Great to see you. Hey, Deborah. Glad you guys are here with me on this evening. Hey, Monique. Great to see you. So excited. Hey, Latoya. Streaming in from YouTube. Thank you so much, Latoya. We appreciate you coming in. I love y'all so very much. Hey, Donalyn. Hey. Love y'all so very much. Hey, Jane. Good to see you. I should call you Pastor Aaron, because that's what you and your wife be doing, pastoring folk. I know maybe not, but y'all be pastoring folk. That's what y'all be doing. Hey, my love, great to see you. Oh, God bless you, Trina. Hey, I'm trying to keep up with you and your chops. You go, girl. Awesome. LaShonda, hi, how are you? Facebook user, whoever you are, how are you? Thanks for joining in. Ramanti, I hope I'm saying your name right. I love that hat in the picture. That hat is banging. Go, girl. Great to see you. God bless you, Prophetess Pointer. Wasn't she awesome? She also preached for us this month and ministered. I'm so excited, you guys. Listen, we got a strong lineup tonight. But before we get into it, I'm going to play this video that's going to show you guys all the exciting things I have lined up for Patreon. If you guys want to become a covenant partner with me, this video is going to talk about how you can do that. And while this video is playing, I will come back as soon as it's done and introduce the speaker of the hour, which I'm so excited, you guys. Steve Dunleavy, you guys are in for a treat. I will talk more about him when I get ready to introduce him. But for now, you guys, I have a short little video that talks about ways you can become a covenant partner with me for Monday Manna. Have you guys been enjoying the speakers? Have you guys been enjoying the things we've been doing? We're looking to expand and do a lot more. So if you guys want to become a covenant partner, this video is going to talk about how to do that. So I will play this video. I'll come back, introduce Steve. And I'm looking forward to this powerful evening, all right? So you guys get ready. Looking forward to it. Hey everyone, it's Stephanie here from Monday Manna, and I wanted to share with you guys some very exciting things I have going on in Patreon. So let's go ahead and take a look. So you guys, if you guys want to become a covenant partner with me for Monday Manna, there's some things you guys can be able to do to support me once a month. So today, I'm going to go through each tiers and what they come with. So if you do decide to become a covenant partner with me, then you'll get plenty of awesome things in exchange for that. So the first tier I'd like to start with today is membership level number 1, which is Monday Manna Mover. And as a Monday Manna Mover, you would have a monthly subscription at $6 a month. Now, whatever tier that you want to be a part of and support Monday Manna, when you sign into Patreon, you will go ahead and agree to do that. Click on that and put your card information in, and your card will be charged today. And then it will also be charged the first of the month. So you'll get double benefits if you decide to sign up today. And once the first happens of next month in March, you'll also get these same awesome benefits that I'm getting ready to explain every month. So the first tier is, again, Monday Manna Mover, and that's at $6 a month, as cheap as $6 a month. Now, listen, if you can't get enough of the prophetic Monday Manna broadcast, you are at the right place. You will get access to my exclusive Monday Manna prophetic Facebook group, a powerful prophetic video of declaration once a month, and a fresh prophetic music video once a month, hot off the press before anybody has access to it. All right. So you get those things every month. Once a month, if you decide to become a Monday Manna Mover at $6 a month. Our next tier up is a Miracle Covenant Partner Bronze. And with this Miracle Covenant Partner Bronze, that is at $12 a month. And you will get all of the above that I've stated. Plus, you will be able to have access to a corporate prophetic encouragement video, prophetic declaration, private Facebook group, and the fresh Monday Manna Worship Song. Okay, so with each tier comes more support. All right, and the difference between the Covenant Partner Bronze and the other one is that you actually will get a prophetic encouragement video. All right, isn't that exciting? I know I'm excited about it. The next one up is a Miracle Covenant Partner Silver. And if you want to become a Miracle Partner Silver, you will be able to partner with me for $59 per month. And with this, you get access to everything I've said above, plus a weekly, every single week, right after Monday Manna, for 30 minutes, a weekly 30-minute group Zoom with prophetic content, prophecy, question and answer sessions, and some special VIP teachings. So if you'd like to partner with me today for a Miracle Covenant Partner Silver, your card will get charged today, and also the first of the month for the next month. All right, now there's more tiers above that, and let's take the time to go through that. The next one up is Miracle Covenant Partner Gold. That includes everything I've said it before, and that's $149 a month. But the thing that it's different than all the other tiers is that you get a prophetic prescription, one-on-one time with me for 30 minutes once a month to delve into anything you might need clarity on. So it's not just a time of prophecy, but it's a time I'm able to delve right into whatever your points of needs are to give you the practical and strategic tactics and strategy and the practical blueprint to fulfill your next place of destiny in your life, no matter what it is. Okay, now we're going up with each partnership. We're going up. The Miraculous Platinum Partner, that is at $329 a month. With this partnership, you get everything above except instead of a 30-minute Zoom prophetic prescription, you will get a one-on-one Zoom deep dive prophetic prescription coaching session for 1 hour once a month. Isn't that exciting? In addition to that, you'll be able to get a 10-minute once a week check-in through the app that's called WhatsApp. So you'll be able to talk to me for 10 minutes weekly, one-on-one, for anything you might need support or prayer or prophetic insight on. In addition to that, you will get a once a week 5-minute prayer that's tailor-made for you. All right. So I will be taking the time to send you a specific prayer just for you, targeting anything that you would like for me to target every week for 5 minutes. Okay. Once a week. In addition to that, you will also get one dream interpretation for the month. And you also have daily access to me through WhatsApp Monday through Friday for general support. So you're texting, you're calling, you got questions, that gives you automatic access. Okay, then each round goes higher and higher, you guys. The next one is the Miraculous Platinum Plus Partner. With that is $759 a month. Every round goes higher and higher. So we get all of that above, except instead of one prophetic prescription once a month, you get 2 of those with me for once a month. Isn't that exciting? We'll delve into your next place of destiny and give you prophetic insight on whatever you need. In addition to that, you will have direct access to me for 10 minutes for twice a week, 2 times a week, you guys, on WhatsApp. So we can talk through WhatsApp. We can message through WhatsApp. We can send each other support on WhatsApp. I will be sending you support, whatever you need, for 10 minutes, twice, 2 times a week. Okay. Then in addition to that, 2 times a week, you'll be able to get 5-minute personalized, tailor-made recordings of prayers just for you. You'll also get 2, not 1, but 2 dream interpretations a month. In addition to that, you have daily access to me through WhatsApp Monday through Friday for general support. All right, every round goes higher and higher. And this is the top ultimate executive VIP Miraculous Platinum Plus Supreme Partner. And you, my friend, you can partner with me for $1,597 a month. Let me tell you what all of the bells and whistles that's going to offer for you that no other thing can offer. So everything I said above will apply. But instead of 1 or 2 Zoom sessions, you get not 1, 2, but 4 one-on-one sessions with me once a week, okay? Which is 4 sessions a month. Isn't that cool? Then you will also have 5 to 10 minute weekly check-ins with me on WhatsApp. Okay. And you will be able to do that with me, not once or twice a week, but you will be able to have access to do that with me 5 times a week. Man, you can't beat that. And then you get 5, not 1, but 5 specific prayer point recordings tailor-made for you to pray and access and open up the heavens for you in what area of your life that you have need of. You don't get 1, my friend, not 2, but 4 dream interpretations a month. 4. So as we pray and come together, you're going to be dreaming more, and you get 4 dream interpretations. In addition to that, you get daily access with me once all throughout the week, Monday through Friday, through WhatsApp for general support. In addition to that, you will have 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 daily prophetic recordings from me, specifically to you, tailor-made to you, Monday through Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot beat that. Listen, I'm excited about you guys. I'm excited about all that you guys have done for me, and I'm excited about our next and your next. And I'm looking forward to those that want to come and partner with me through our Monday Manna covenants. Okay. So if you want to be blessed and you just can't get enough of the free content I already provide on Monday Manna, you can get more and as much as you want. If you want to decide to Partner with me. Listen, we're trying to expand Monday Manna. We're looking to have more speakers. We're looking to do big things and build Monday Manna. And if you want to be a part of that, to become a covenant partner with me today, you can do so. All you need to do, my friends, is click the Patreon link in the comments above in the post, or also click it and I will post it in the comments below. Listen, you guys, my friends, I love you, beloved. Be blessed. And I'm looking forward to great things to come and what God's getting ready to do in your life. Be blessed. Amen, everybody. I hope y'all was blessed by that. You guys can partner if you refresh the post. All right, you guys, I'm excited because we get to bring on the guest speaker of the hour, Steve Dunleavy. Yes. You guys, I need to let you guys know that he is a professional licensed counselor, and he is independently licensed in the state of Ohio, and he's also a supervisor. So he supervised other counselors so they can go ahead and get their certification. And let me tell you guys, this man is such a powerful man of God, and he's coming before us tonight to talk about grief. And he is amazing, and he's helped me and helped other people I know, and he is anointed to do what he does. Listen, how many know, like sometimes when you guys we deal with different traumas and different things. Yes, laying hands, that's one point of contact for deliverance. But how many of you know that counseling can provide another contact of deliverance that can help us to be free in our mind? Christ said he came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. So Christ also wants us to be freed in our mind. So you guys, he is the chief clinical counselor, the officer of not renewed, but Renew Counseling Ministries. So I have posted that above in the comments. I'll be talking more about that. But at this time, I'm going to bring Steve on to talk more about himself, and we're going to get the ball rolling tonight. So give it up. Show Steve Dunleavy some love tonight, y'all. Come on.
How are you, my friend?
I'm well, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I fixed the slide for you. See, I fixed it.
Hey, that looks fantastic. No, I think that's great. Awesome. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate this. And I think if anyone, I think if I ever need to be introduced again, I'm calling you in. I don't know if that's like a specific service you offer, but I think it should be. I definitely do. That's really good.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, and thank
I'm
you.
going to turn it over to you.
No, that sounds good. All right, so I'm gonna bring up my screen here on the slides. And so, guys, I'm Steve Dunleavy, and let me tell you the most important things about me. I've been married to the same woman for 25 years. We've been together for 27 and a half years. When she married me, she had no gray hair. I'm pretty sure I'm responsible for every gray hair on her head. Pray for her because she is an amazing woman who's been putting up with me for a long time. We have two amazing children. We've got twin 10-year-olds, almost 11, going on 35, named Cooper and Finley, and they are just the joys of our life. They are right now, as we speak, playing Fortnite upstairs. I had them play Fortnite upstairs because if they played Fortnite downstairs, what you would be able to hear is them screaming into the microphones to all of their friends that they play Fortnite with. But they love Fortnite. It's a great game that they play. And that really is the most important parts of my life. Family is very important. And definitely the most important role that I have. But I'm also the chief clinical officer at a new counseling ministry that my friends and I, three other friends and I founded, offering counseling services to anybody ages 3 and above. And Stephanie, are my slides up?
All I see is this. So your slides are not up, but I see that you have StreamYard on your computer.
Really? Okay,
yes.
Hold on. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to reshare.
Yes.
Let me do that. Technology is awesome when it works.
When it works.
When it works. I love it. Okay. Exactly, right? What about now?
Yep. And I'm going to disappear I'll still be in the background if you need me. And I'm going to blow up the screen. So are you ready for them to see the screen?
I am,
Totally.
yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Awesome. I'm going to
Yep.
show your full screen. It's showing now.
Love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to put on my reading glasses so that I can actually see what I'm wanting to say for tonight. But let me show you a little bit about Renew Counseling Ministries. This is our logo on the side. We counsel anyone 3 years old and older, and we counsel all different kinds of things that people are walking through, everything from addictions to marriage. People who are addicted to marriage, that's awesome. No, I'm just kidding. No, addictions, marriage, and every kind of disorder that people go through, every kind of thing they go through. We specialize in trauma, we specialize in grief, and a lot of other things too. We've got 10 clinicians that we have already hired, and by the end of March, we'll be up to 14 clinicians total. And there you see our address. We're in Fair Lawn. And then to register for counseling, we've got the email address there. You simply send an email to registration@reneecm.com, and the people on the other end of that line will reach back out to you and tell you how to register for counseling. But we also have a phone line there.
Hey, Steve, we're not seeing those emails. Is it possible for you to make this your slides bigger so we can see it on the full screen, like a presentation? Is that possible?
Probably show presenter view.
Yeah, you do that, or it's a slideshow.
It was on slideshow. Was it not showing?
No, we just see all your slides.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. Well, let me do this. So you just see all the slides. You don't see it in presenter view now?
No.
Huh. I wonder what. Nope, that's not going to do it. This is where getting my doctorate in biblical counseling doesn't come in handy. All right, so I am stopping sharing. Let me see how in the world I would share it. Was that happening when we practiced it earlier?
But I thought you knew how, that everything was going to be cool. Like, are you are you able to go to share and just share your slides? Because it'll give you the option, and then the slides will be big. It'll automatically go into a presentation mode.
So I thought that's what I. Oh, do you mean upload my slides?
Yeah, if you go to share slides below in your StreamYard link, and click on share, and then download the slides from whatever file it's in, it'll show on the screen
I gotcha.
yeah, and you can just press the arrow from that point. It'll go from slide to slide.
Okay, it says uploading.
Awesome.
Is that what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yep, it's supposed to upload. It might take a second, but
No worries.
go up, down, side to side, up, down, side to side.
That's exactly right. I love it.
Well, you know what? While that's uploading, Steve, what brought you into counseling? Like, what was the thing that got you into it in the first place while that's uploading?
That is a fantastic question. I went to Bible college when I was a wee lad. No, I was about 19 when I entered Bible college.
Yes.
And I went into pastoral ministries, and I realized my first day on campus at this new church, a young lady called me, and I had not met her yet. And she said, "Pastor Steve," that was weird to hear, by the way, for the first time ever. And she said, I have bulimia. I got to confess, I didn't know what that was. And she said, "I stole something from school. My dad's a lumberjack." I was in Maine at the time. Lumberjacks were plentiful. So my dad's a lumberjack, and he's going to come home and beat me. Will you come over? And I thought, no. I don't want to come over. Your dad's a lumberjack. I mean, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know, 24, 23 years old at this time, newly married. And so I ended up going over, and I recognized that Bible college really didn't prepare me to intelligently talk about the human condition, but I learned a lot about God and a lot about the Bible, and those are valuable skills. But for where people lived, I recognized I needed more training. I needed to go back to school and understand the human condition a whole lot better. And so I decided that after a few years there, I'd go back to school and go into counseling. And then when I really assessed, what do I love about pastoring? You know, it was helping people get through specific issues that they were going through, and really helping them find Jesus in a healing context. And so I thought, well, how can I do that full time? Well,
Wow.
enter counseling. And so counseling really for me is helping Jesus get to the parts of people where he really wants to get to.
Ooh.
And some of what we're going to talk about tonight in grieving, because grief, I think, is a huge part of why people do the things that they don't want to do. I think when grief gets frozen on the inside of people because they don't know how to grieve, it actually creates behaviors that otherwise would not exist.
Oh, that's good. That's really
Right?
good, Steve. Do you think that maybe addictive behaviors may be a part of that?
I think that's a huge contributor to that. I don't think that's all that's responsible for that. But absolutely frozen grief on the inside of people. And frozen grief, I mean grief that has not been able to be processed. When we are young, and by young I mean before 10 years old. I'm 48. I still think I'm young.
I'm young
Okay.
too. I'm 36.
Listen, it's all good. We're all young.
It's all a
true.
mindset, baby.
It's
Yes.
exactly right.
Yes.
And so, so when we look at that, though, we need somebody else to help us process things. When they don't help us process what we go through, grief gets frozen. It has no way to come out of us. Our brains are not developed to the point where they need to be in order to actually get it out of us.
Now, do you think that has to do with like the fall of man and Adam and Eve? Whatever fruit it was, that just led to the enemy using that as a tactic, a strategic tactic in believers. I think all across the world to try to get people frozen in their grief.
Well, no,
I mean,
that's a fantastic observation. I mean, honestly, I don't think that there would be any grief without the fall, right? We lived in
yeah.
a garden, and the garden was perfect. But I think when are my slides up?
Yep. I was just letting you finish a question.
Oh no, that's good. No, for
You're good.
sure.
You're good.
Yeah, I think that once humanity fell, there were a few outcomes from that I want to talk about in later slides for sure. One of them, though, is that it became tougher to process grief, and I'll talk about that probably on slide 2,
Ooh, that
maybe
sounds
3.
great. Well, listen, this presentation already sounds delicious and scrumptious for our brains to process. So, Steve, I'm getting ready to blow up your slides. Let the folks hear from you. You guys, listen. Get your seatbelt on. Get your notepad because this man is going to be dropping nuggets that it will be helpful and it could change your life. So, hey, y'all in for a treat. I digress. I digress.
Stephanie, you always make me feel so great.
I do my Baptist best. Baptist best.
Listen, it's good. It's good.
Awesome. It's all you. Your
And so
screen
do
blowed
I
up.
just hit the next button
Yep.
here, then it goes to the next? Okay, good.
You're good.
I
Yep.
love the way this works. It's simple enough for me to use, and I love that. Okay.
Yes.
So is this showing up better?
Yes, it is. It's perfect.
Perfecti. All right.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of clinicians. We see almost every single issue that you could walk in the door with. If you're wondering, hey, I wonder if they've got a counselor for that, the odds are is the answer is yes. So feel free to reach out. But enough about Renew. Let's get into, to start off tonight, I actually want to show you a stress test.
Oh,
Okay?
Steve, I forgot to mention, did you want people to post questions if they have questions throughout the broadcast tonight? I meant to say that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, feel free to post questions if you do, for sure. Not a problem. That would be great.
I digress for real this time. I really do digress.
Listen, girl, you can listen anytime. It's not a problem. All right. So the picture that I'm about to show you, okay, this is a stress test. So the picture that I'm about to show you has 2 identical dolphins on it. It was used in a case study of stress in the psychology department at the University of Akron. So here's what I want you to do. This will determine how stressed you are coming into the seminar. I want you to look at both dolphins jumping out of the water. And if you see the dolphins as they are, meaning you see them both as being identical, then that means that you are not stressed at all. However, if you see even subtle differences, it means that you've been under some stress. But the more severe the differences between the dolphins, the higher the stress level that you've been under. Okay, is everybody ready? All right, here we go. All right, how stressed did we turn out to be? How many see, put it in the chat or whatever way you do, how many saw two dolphins? All right, what did you guys see? Just put it in the chat so I can know what you saw. Stephanie, am I able to see what they're saying?
Oh, I'm waiting for. Sometimes it's a little bit of a lag, so they're gonna here they come. They come in now. There's a little bit of a lag. Okay, here we go.
Okay. You see a cow. Monique, you're under a lot of stress, my friend. I don't know. I see a dolphin and a cow. I don't know. There's a lot of stress going on there, right? So we tend to live in a dolphin and a cow. That's exactly right. If anybody saw two dolphins, that is a different issue that we also can help you with. All right, so there's a dolphin and a cow. Cow and a dolphin. We got it. Yes, perfect. Dolphin and a cow. All right. So we tend to live under a lot of stress in our lifetimes. And when I talk about, let me go over first. Why am I teaching this seminar? I'm teaching this seminar because, partially because I want to answer the question, why is it that the good that I want to do, I don't do, and those things that I thought I would never do, I sometimes find myself doing? But I also believe that there is an ancient order unlocking ministry effectiveness, which I would define as just doing great things for God, hidden in the order in which Joseph's sons were named upon their birth. Joseph named his first son Manasseh and his second son Ephraim. Manasseh means he causes me to forget my suffering, and Ephraim means he causes me to become fruitful, with the implication that it's actually double fruitfulness. It always leads to problems when we try to become fruitful for God prior to allowing God to help me resolve what the pain of the past has imprinted upon my mind. It is possible for my talents to take me places my character can't keep me. But there's so much hope when we allow God to heal the pain of the past, and it doesn't have to take years. Frankly, it's never too late. James told us that a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. And this double-mindedness, I think, is a result of the fall. Double-minded literally means a fractured soul. Your soul is your mind, or your thoughts, your will, and your emotion. And what I'm hoping to show you is what causes a fractured soul. What causes your thoughts to not be in line with your will, and for your will to do things that are out of line with your emotions. And have you ever had times when your thoughts and your emotions were telling you two completely different things? I know I have for sure. And I also want to show you how you can invite God to unite your soul under the leadership of your spirit. And so I'm going to start by talking about I'm not going to start. I'm actually just going to talk about grief tonight. This is actually a part of a 3-part seminar that I typically do, and I'm going to give you part 1 tonight, which is on grief. But I want to talk about the emotional upheaval side of grief first. Any dysfunctional behavior we have, they are blown by the wind of hurtful emotions in our lives, such as anger and depression and anxiety and stress. The design of these dysfunctional behaviors is to stop painful feelings originally experienced in whatever wounding event put them in place, which has now become unconscious for most of us. Unfortunately, those behaviors also stop our ability to grieve our losses, which also stops me from being free. So the first principle that I want to give you today is actually at the bottom of the screen here. It's that each experience of loss deserves an appropriate season of grieving. Each experience of loss deserves an appropriate season of grieving. And so when you think about that, I'm not just talking about the big losses. I'm talking about small losses too. Now, I have twin almost 11-year-olds. Now, for them, losses are going to be different than they'll be for them at 35. Certainly different than they are for me at 48.
Hey, Steve, sorry to interrupt you. This
No.
is going to be my last interruption. When you're
No, you're
talking,
fine.
do you mind if I show your face while you're talking? And then when you go back to the slides, because I think they might like, seeing you talk to them.
Listen, listen, if they can put up with my face, you feel free to show it as much as you want. That's
And
fine,
I'll go back
absolutely.
and forth. I'll go back and forth. I digress.
Okay.
I digress.
Don't digress. Come on, stay on with me. It'll make me feel less alone in this thing. It's the only thing when we went to like Zoom calls and when we went to Microsoft Teams calls and all those kinds of things, the only thing that is tough about these things is the dead quiet
Yeah.
that you hear on the other end. I'm used to having a live audience.
Yes. So you
And
guys,
being
let's
able
show
to
him
play.
some love. If you guys are in agreement with what he's saying, can I get an amen? Thank you, Dr. Rhonda, giving us an amen. Yes. Let's talk back to Steve. So let's make our guests feel warm and welcome.
Yes, for sure. Yeah,
Yes.
it is not good that the man be alone. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just
Steve is
kidding.
full of jokes. I'm telling y'all.
I'm totally playing. I'm totally playing.
They're coming in.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. So every experience of loss deserves an appropriate season of grieving. So the thing is that what's a loss to my kids won't be a loss to me, but it is a loss to them. What's a loss to me, they can't even comprehend yet. Right? So what happens to those losses that I experienced when I was 11? Those things that seemed huge when I was 11 that never got to be processed. Well, maybe they still exist on the inside somewhere. All right, so learning to grieve our losses is foundational to our well-being. However, we are not taught how to grieve. Instead, we are taught how to avoid pain. And I think that Jesus stands at the door and he knocks. He knocks on the door of our pain, and he promises that if we let him in, he'll come in and he'll treat us like a friend. Right? And I'm going to illustrate that just a little bit later with a story about the woman on the well. And if I forget to do that, Stephanie, just come on, don't digress. Come on in and just say, hey, the woman at the well, dude,
I do.
put it out there. It's exactly right. Do it. But when we avoid pain, here's the thing. Jesus is always knocking on the door, but when we avoid pain, we're not in the room that has the door that Jesus is knocking on. And it's almost impossible for him to come into a space and heal it. We cannot open the door to a room we are not in. And so as we use these techniques to numb pain, to get ourselves out of pain, we're actually keeping ourselves from being in the room that Jesus has been knocking on all along. And there are ways that we can get back into that room to let him in, and then trust him enough to let him clean out what's in that room. Grieving requires an empathic receiver of pain in order to move us through the process of grieving. Nobody grieves successfully alone. So when I say grieving, most people hear crying. And crying is a part of grieving, but crying alone is not grieving. People can cry for 20 years and never really get through the grieving process. Grieving also typically involves forgiveness. All right, this is smushed a little bit, but hopefully you can still read it. So I want to say that I want to talk about what is grief, because we're talking all around grief. What is it? I'm so glad you asked that. So if trauma is what happens to us, grieving is our mind's way of getting what happened to us out of us. And if you want to really break it down even more, grief is the normal and natural response to loss of any kind. Grief is also the conflicting feelings caused by the end of or change in a familiar pattern of behavior. Have you ever felt happy and sad at the same time, but for different reasons? Right? We can have more than one feeling at a time, even if those feelings are in conflict. I remember when my grandmother died after a long battle with lymphoma, I was both happy that she was no longer in pain and sad that she was no longer in my life. You can be both happy and sad at the exact same time. So cognitive dissonance is something that happens during grief. It's when life turns out to be different than we thought it could be or that we thought it should be. Cognitive dissonance is created, in which our brains try to make sense out of what's happening around us because they feel off balance. And really, when our brains get into cognitive dissonance, it feels like our brains are swirling around the same information over and over and over again. Maybe asking the same questions over and over and over again. We're trying to make sense out of this new information and really make it fit in our heads. And so the process of finding balance again or adjusting to this new information, we tend to call that grieving. Now, over the past 2 years, since March of 2020, has anyone on this call experienced a change in a familiar pattern of behavior or had life turn out different than you thought it should be or could be? Anyone at all? Right? All of us have. Oh my goodness. Dr. Rhonda, oh my goodness. I am so sorry. Yeah, there's a lot of things that people have gone through. The pandemic is something that we've all shared, and then people have had individual differences during that pandemic, individual experiences. A lot of us have lost loved ones to the pandemic. A lot of us have just had our lives turned upside down by it. Some of us lost jobs as a result of the pandemic. You know, there's a lot of things that this pandemic has caused to us that has caused all of us to grieve. And any loss deserves a season of grief. Now, here's one of the things that might be a misunderstanding with grief, because grief was put out in stages years ago by Kubler-Ross, Dr. Kubler-Ross. And stages implies that once we get through one stage, we're done. And then we move on to the next stage, and then we're done with that stage, and we move on. And then when you get to the fifth stage, once you're done with it, then you move on from it, and you leave it all behind, right? That's the way we think about grieving. And because we think about grieving in that way, it's very confusing when it doesn't turn out that way. And so I want to offer you a different idea for it. I don't know that we leave grief behind. I wonder if we actually move on with grief. And as we face it, we tend to move through it. We leave the pain behind and have a new normal that God's grace proves sufficient for. And you know, when Jesus rose again, he rose again with the scars, and the scars were the evidence of God's grace, a reminder of what the Father brought him through for us. I tend to think that we move on with tangible reminders of that grief. But you know, you may have lost someone, for instance. It doesn't have to be the death of a person, but you may have lost someone years ago. I guarantee if you get a familiar scent, it brings your mind back to that place, and you might feel loss all over again. Maybe not the same level that you did, but you can feel loss again. And what I guess I'd want you to know is that's normal. That's normal functioning. It's normal behavior. It's normal to have that happen. And it doesn't mean that you have not grieved the loss yet. It doesn't mean that you're still in the middle of it. It means that you're having a normal reaction to somebody being taken out of your life. You know? At Lazarus' tomb, Jesus wept. Why? In 3 seconds, he was about to say, Lazarus, get your butt out of there. I'm sorry, that's the Steve Revised version. He was about to say, Lazarus, come on out. I'm going to resurrect you. But he grieved with those who were grieving. He wept for them. And we can grieve losses such as the death of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of a marriage, or the lesser talked about ones are actually the intangible losses. These are things like the loss of a dream, where we recognize that what we thought was going to be true, the chances of that being true are very slim moving forward. Or the loss of safety and trust that comes to us through betrayal. When we feel betrayed by people that we trusted, and it's hard to invest trust again. We can grieve the loss of freedom. And we can even grieve the loss of who I thought I was. Have you ever, now let's get real for a minute. Can we just get real for a moment? Have you ever done something and after you did it, you couldn't believe that you did it? And then you wondered, who was that person that did this? I can't even believe that could be me. If you haven't been there, I'm not sure that you're breathing oxygen still. You're already in heaven and already perfected, because I certainly have been there myself. And you wonder, what in the world, who am I? The loss of a sense of who you thought you were is one of the biggest things that we grieve. It's also one of the biggest things that Satan throws in our faces. Satan's tactics are not complex. Here's how simple they are. He sets you up by saying, you know what? You deserve this. You've been so good. You should just go do this. Or can you believe what they did to you? You should do this. And then after you follow through with what he told you to do to begin with, he then says, I can't believe you did that. Why would you do such a thing? You're not really a Christian. You're not really a good person. You're awful. He sets you up for it, and then he shames you for it, knowing that the more pain he adds in, the more you'll numb, the more frozen grief you'll have, the more likely it is that you will act out again in similar ways. And this is Satan's tactic. This is what he does all the time. So we can grieve the loss of who I thought I was. And here's the thing I'd want you to hear through that, and I just feel like God is telling me to say this at this point. You are who God says you are. Your behavior is not the biggest predictor of who you are. The best predictor of who you are is who God said you were. There was a moment in time when each of us existed as a thought in God's mind. A thought in his mind. And he thought enough of us to take a piece of his character and wrap your entire personality around it. And then he looked into a developing cell and he said, I'm going to put this one right here in this cell. And I'm going to start to develop this personality wrapped around my character, and I'm going to breathe that life into this developing body. And then it becomes a living soul. And then all of a sudden we are born and our feet hit the ground, and then everything in this world tries to rob us of what God put in us. What I'd want you to know is no one can steal what God puts in you. What God has created inside of you, nobody can take it away. They can pile things on top of it to hide it from you. But to me, that's what counseling is taking all of those things off of you that have been on top, but put on top of your true self, the self that God sees every time he looks at you, so that who you really are can shine through. And you don't even, it's effortless at that point. The work is getting off of you what was put in you, but when that is off of you, it is not work to let yourself shine. It naturally happens. And sometimes we grieve after something's lost, but sometimes we grieve right in the midst of losing it. Have you ever had that when you were like in the midst of losing something, you hadn't quite lost it yet, but you were grieving nonetheless? So funny, I'm talking about grief and my OneDrive account just popped up and said, look at your picture memories. That's funny. All right, I've got ADD. I can't ignore it, people. It's just the way it is. All right, let's move on to the next slide. All right, so here's the problem with grief. Nobody teaches us how to grieve, right? Instead, we're taught how to avoid our feelings. We're taught how to avoid our thoughts associated with grief. And actually, the purpose of most dysfunctional behaviors is to stop you from feeling what it is you really feel. If you look at the behaviors that we all have, and all of us have these, guys, this joker included, okay? All of us have these. But the purpose of these behaviors is to stop you from having the thoughts and feelings that you already have anyway, to numb them, to distract from them, to get you away from them. But when we avoid these painful feelings, it causes our brain to retain unprocessed grief in the emotional processing systems of our brain. And new grief piles on top of old grief in our amygdala and causes other symptoms. And I promise you, most of the non-biological depression and anxiety symptoms in people that I've seen over the last 18 years of doing this has been unprocessed grief. And to be honest, most of the things that are not biological, I could probably boil down to 2 issues. Are you ready for this? Not 50, 2. One is unprocessed grief. I know that's a shocker since I'm doing this seminar tonight. Frozen grief that's unprocessed. The second is lies that you've been taught and therefore believed. When we believe a lie, it affects our entire life. Typically, the lies that we believe are about ourselves. At some point, Stephanie, I may come on if you have me back after today. We'll see how it goes for the rest of it. But if you'll ever have me back, maybe we'll just talk about the lies that we believe.
Oh, yes, I'm bringing you back. Yes, if you'll come back for me. Yes, please.
I would listen. Anytime you'll have me, I'll come back.
Yes.
Because those are the 2 issues that I've seen that cause a myriad of symptoms, from addictions to anxiety to depression to angry outbursts.
Why do you say that is, Steve? Why?
I think that when we have lies about ourselves, let's take that for instance first. The lies about ourselves create an expectation set from which we live our lives. We tend to create the life we think we deserve. And so if my lie about myself is that I'm unlovable, and that's a common one that a lot of people have, well, I can't live without love. So I have to figure out, what do I do to get love?
Yeah.
Well, growing up in a world that values high achievement, I need to be perfect in order to be loved is not a far stretch. And if I have to be perfect to be loved, there's a part of me that knows on this side of the Garden of Eden that's not possible. So it creates an expectation that I'm supposed to be something that I have no ability to do, and if I don't do it, it leads to abandonment and rejection, also called a lack of love.
Do you think that's embedded in, people who deal with trying to be a perfectionist, that's woven into somehow some type of lie that the enemy's planted?
Absolutely. And I want to say it this way, and this is a hard thing to say, and I'm talking mostly to myself, I'll talk to you as well, all of us, right? The enemy plants it and then we agree with it because he plants it at such a young age that we can't not agree with it. It feels normal. It actually feels like our thoughts by the time we get to be this old man's age. And that's just the way that is. right? And so it's our agreement with it that gives it power. It's not the fact that he planted it, right? So there's actually a huge process in formational prayer that I bring people through that is coming out of agreement with those lies, and then helping our emotional brain shift in response to truth, so that it almost like throws out the lie and holds on to truth. Did you like that side effect? The sound effect?
Yes, yes.
Right. Nothing but the highest quality stuff on this side of the microphone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a sound effect. But yeah, so we tend to create the life we think we deserve, and it creates a lot of pressure for us. And then anxiety is like the hamster wheel. We're just churning. Now, what if I think I need to be perfect in order to be loved, but I know I'm never going to get there? At some point, depending upon how my personality is set up, I may think I'll never get there. And when I think I'll never get there, guess what settles in? Depression. Depression is sometimes a result of the hopelessness that I will never be what I need to be to get my needs met. Depression settles in. Angry outbursts can be the result, in men especially, of depression. Depression in men doesn't look like crying typically. It doesn't look like not being able to get out of bed. Depression in men typically looks like workaholism, angry outbursts, easily frustrated, running on stress and adrenaline. That's what depression typically looks like, and so we miss it a lot of the times because it doesn't look like the textbooks say it should look.
Ooh.
So good. So at some point we can talk about lies all day long, because really I think those are the two issues, frozen grief and lies that my experiences have taught me.
Ooh.
But tonight let's talk about frozen grief. All right, so this is some misinformation that we have been given. Let me catch up with where I am here. Okay. So this is some misinformation we get that actually stops us from being able to grieve. We're often told in different ways, don't feel bad. Sometimes we're even told outright, don't cry. Now, we're not told these things because people want to be cruel. We're told these things because they're trying to make us feel better. But when we feel better without moving through the pain, it actually leads to unprocessed grief. Don't cry, it'll be okay. Sometimes people might say things like that. Sometimes we're also taught, though, to replace the loss. I remember y'all check this out. I once went through 16 goldfish.
Oh, wow.
16 goldfish. They never lived more than 3 days. Now, I got to tell you, we've got goldfish now. We've had these goldfish for the past year, and I'm like, this is not my experience. These are like the marathon goldfish. They're lasting like forever. But in my house, we had like goldfish. They lasted like a week, right?
Oh, no.
And so what happened when the goldfish died? We just went and got another one because they're 99 cents. Actually, back then, they might have been like 50 cents. I don't even know, right? So we just kept replacing the loss over and over again. We'll get you another one. We'll get you another one. We'll get you another one. And so we learn, just replace the loss. Another thing that we learn is grieve alone. How many times as kids were we taught, you know what, if you're going to cry, go to your room. Cry all you want. And so then when we become adults, what do? We tend to isolate ourselves when we grieve because we don't want to inflict that on anybody else. We also stop ourselves from being able to grieve successfully, though, because earlier I said to successfully grieve, it requires an empathic receiver. We need somebody else's brain to receive our information to grieve successfully. Without
Why?
somebody there, That's because our brains are created with a social wiring where we don't release grief unless somebody else is there to hear it.
Ooh.
So we actually need somebody else there to hear it. Now, it has to be the right person, not a right person, but a right kind of person. Because somebody that's going to do this and say, oh, it's going to be okay, you're going to be fine. That's not the kind of person we need to hear our grief. I said an empathic witness. An empathic witness is not somebody that needs to change us. They're somebody that can just receive the information, let us be in the grief. But then if we need something specific, they're right there with the ministry of presence to help us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we need somebody, a big heart with ears is like a way I like to say it. A big heart with ears. Somebody listening, and they're all heart. They're just there to help us feel through it. And so we're also taught it just takes time. I don't know who came up with this lie, but it just takes time. Like time heals all wounds. I also heard somebody say that time wounds all heals. And for people that have been wounded by other people, that's good news. But time doesn't heal anything. Time just passes by. And the truth is that as time passes, if you don't do specific things, nothing heals, just as a result of the passing of time. Some of us are also told that we should be strong for others. You know what? You got to be the rock for your family now. Some of us are told just to keep busy. We're taught to keep busy, and we're not taught this one typically by somebody telling us to keep busy. We tend to look at the adults in our life and we see they're in pain. What do? They keep busy. That's how you handle this. And so we just busy ourselves and just keep on that hamster wheel so that we can avoid the pain that we are going through. And by the way, if anything in this presentation of these types of things sounds like I'm putting them down, I'm not. We all do these things. We've all taught other people to do these things. We do it unwittingly. It's not on purpose. And the truth is, if we look at grief as being a lot of pain, of course we want people to be out of pain, and we don't know how to do that. And so we tell people don't feel bad. We tell them to replace the loss. We tell them unwittingly to grieve alone. Just takes time. Be strong for others. To keep busy. Sometimes we keep busy ourselves. It makes sense that we do that. I don't want any one of us to feel guilty about that at all. But I want us to recognize it as misinformation, because what it does is it keeps us locked in our own grief. Now here's what happens. This is something I didn't say earlier. What happens if I have my own unprocessed grief and then you come to me in pain? My grief is unprocessed. You come to me in pain. What do I do with your pain? Your pain's got nowhere to go. Your pain reminds me of my pain that's unprocessed. So what do I try to do to yours? I try to shut it down. I try to shut it down because your pain is putting me in my pain that I haven't processed. And the only way to stop my pain is to stop your pain. So sometimes we use these things to stop ourselves from having to grieve successfully. So what ways do we numb grief? I'm so glad you asked. Food is definitely one, right? So we use food to numb pain. Comfort foods. I was in a restaurant yesterday, 2 days ago. No, yesterday. And my daughter said, "Dad, you should serve the chicken and dumpling soup to all of your clients." And I said, "Why that? Why is that, baby?" She said, "Because in the menu it called it comfort food." Like, very astute of you to notice. Comfort food, my clients need comfort. That's fantastic. Let's serve them chicken and dumpling soup. So by the way, at Renew Counseling Ministries, We are now serving in the foyer chicken, and I'm just kidding. I'm just
Let me
playing. I
sign up
did.
today. Let me sign up
It's
today.
exactly right. It's exactly right. I did ask my colleagues, and they were like, "That sounds great. Absolutely, right." We're not doing
I'm
that.
coming just for the soup. I'm gonna come just for the soup.
Exactly. No, me too. Listen, it's for the staff too. It's awesome. But food can be used as a numbing agent, right? When we're in pain, we eat. We eat foods that bring comfort. Usually, those tend to be simple carbs. It releases serotonin into our brain. It's a temporary antidepressant. It works very well. We use alcohol and drugs. Some people use anger to numb their pain. Anger is a way to externalize pain and make someone else carry it. And so that's a way to numb my own pain by focusing on you. Exercise can be a way to numb pain.
So I got a question about that, Steve. When you said
What,
anger can be a way of people taking out their anger on you. So so for example, like if somebody's going through something and instead of you know uh, them maybe taking the time to process it, they maybe lash out or tell you off or um, get frustrated and blow up about something that should be a level 1 and make it a level 10. Is that the same kind of anger you are meaning by this, or
that's the same kind of anger. The extra 9 points came from the unprocessed grief.
so does that release something within somebody's mind if they lash out on someone? Does that do anything for? Does it release any type of chemicals, or I mean, I don't know.
It does not. So actually, because anger doesn't tend to be the primary emotion, it actually doesn't bring a catharsis or a releasing of pain. It actually takes their focus off of their own pain
Oh,
and
that's
points the focus onto you. So it's actually a distraction from their own pain. And actually,
ah.
anger makes me feel powerful when I feel powerless.
Ooh.
And so I can actually feel better than you when I'm raging on you, right?
Ah, so it's kind of, would you say that in this moment when anger is used to process grief, it boosts that person's self-esteem just for a moment?
Just for a moment.
Ooh, that's good.
And distracts them from what's really creating the anger to begin with, and that's probably hurt, sadness, fear, those
Is
kind of
frustration in
things.
that too? Would you say frustration?
Frustration is the emotion we get when we have a goal and something's getting in the way of that goal,
Ah,
right?
yes.
So that could push the anger up as well, right? Because if I have a goal of getting to work 15 minutes earlier and there's a traffic jam, what frustrates me? The fact that I had this goal of getting to work 15 minutes early and now that goal has been frustrated.
Yes.
And that's what
Yes.
creates that emotion. Does that make sense?
That's now what you say, that frustration could lead to anger, but it's a different type of anger that has nothing to do with grief. Is that what
For
we're saying?
sure.
Okay, cool.
For
Thanks for the
sure.
clarification.
Yep,
I digress.
absolutely. No, it's good. That's good. Some people can also use isolation as a way to numb pain. When I'm around people, my grief that has been unprocessed might be tapped into. A lot of our grief, have you noticed in your own life? And I'm asking everybody, this is rhetorical, that some of the things that grieve us the most happen in relationships that we have with other people, right? Because a lot of our grief is related to relationships, relationships can stir the grief that's inside of us. So we isolate so that it's not stirred. It's a way of avoiding grief. Shopping. Oh my goodness. Listen, if an Amazon package is coming to your house every other day, you might be I'm going to do like a bit on you might be avoiding grief if an Amazon package comes to your door every second day, you might be avoiding some grief there. And workaholism. If you're working when you don't have to, if you're thinking about work when you're not there, some of that can actually be a distraction from grief. But facing the pain of grieving takes courage. but it also takes presence of mind, a mind anchored in the right now. And so we've talked about what stops us from grieving, what gets in the way. What do you actually do to enhance or get through the grieving process? So glad you asked. So I'm going to talk about these 4 things. We're going to talk about mindfulness. We're going to talk about forgiveness. We're going to talk about lament. And then we're going to talk about healthy community. And then I promise I'm going to shut up after that. Stephanie, were
Hey,
you going to
Steve,
say something?
yeah, we got a question. I don't know if you want to answer it now or maybe when you're, but the person that's asked, Charlene is asking, what if the closest person to you is a narcissist? And I'm wondering if that came about from your slide with anger. I'm not sure, but that's the question that's at hand.
What if the closest person to you is a narcissist? Um, it's a hard question to answer for sure because I don't remember the context. If we can get some clarity to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, could you write Charlene in the comments like what you mean on that?
But let me define narcissist too, because narcissist is something that is a buzzword in society. It's something that is very commonplace nowadays, right? So anybody who is cocky is typically called a narcissist. Anybody that is selfish is typically called a narcissist, right? And there's a point at which cockiness and selfishness do become narcissism. But narcissism is actually a deep wound that occurs early in life, and this person actually has a deep-seated insecurity. And because of that deep-seated insecurity, they need worship from everybody around them. And if people don't worship them, they try to destroy them. That's narcissism,
Ooh.
okay, in a nutshell. Um, yes, I did say we need a person close to share your grief. I didn't mean to indicate that they have to be emotionally close to you. They need to be somebody who is willing to be an empathic receiver, right? And so there are actually groups that go on. If you go on to the griefrecoverymethod.com, you may be able to find a grief group near you. And they actually have people that come together that are certified in the grief recovery method. I'm certified in the grief recovery method, by the way. But they have people who are certified in the grief recovery method, and they do groups around the country and actually around the world. They're national and international. And they have, if you go to one of their groups, they've got people there that will act as an empathic receiver for you. It doesn't have to be somebody in your immediate family. It doesn't have to be somebody in your life. It doesn't have to be somebody that you're going to be friends with for the next 30 years. It just has to be somebody that knows how to zip it and open their ears and actually allow you to have feelings that you really do have.
Now, Steve, would you say like a counselor would be a good person to do because it's a safe place? They're not going to gossip about, what you have to tell them because legally they're not allowed to. Would you say
Legally,
that
they are not allowed
would
to.
that be a good?
Absolutely.
Because guys,
Yeah,
Steve counsels, and I put so you have to refresh the links because I added the links after we started the broadcast because I forgot. So
it's all
you have
good.
to just refresh the page, your page, come out and come back in to see all the links. But if y'all need some counseling, he's the right one. You got the right one here.
And I've got a team of 14 clinicians. They're all the right ones. Honestly, I really hired the best of the best, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, they really are the A team for sure, of amazing clinicians, all that love God. They're all Christians, strong in their faith, but they also are committed to growing in their clinical expertise. We want to find the best things that get people the furthest distance quickest. And so we want to our byline. If you look at our website at ReneeSC.com, one of our bylines, and it's kind of funny. It's meant to be funny, but it's also serious. We pretty much said we'll use anything short of sin to help you heal, and that is true. Anything that works, we're going to use it as long as it's not contradictory to God's word. And so we will use counseling techniques to get you from A to B and help Jesus get from B to C inside of you so that he can help you. heal from what's happened. So mindfulness. So I hope that answered the narcissism question, because obviously somebody who's narcissistic, they can't be an empathic witness. They just don't have that capacity, and so that would not be the person to share all this with.
That's great, Steve. Thanks.
Yep. And so mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of observing what you are experiencing in the present moment with compassionate, non-judgmental acceptance. In its simplest form, mindfulness is essentially focused attention on something happening now without judging it as right and wrong or good and bad. Now, emotions aren't bad. They are our mind and body's way of getting you to do something it thinks is useful for your survival. Feelings are the wind blowing the sails on your ship, the ship of your behaviors. When you feel sadness and grief, it's your mind's way of getting you to slow down, to reflect, to get in touch with the love and meaning attached to your relationship with the deceased. Or if it's not a death, the love and meaning attached to your relationship, maybe with yourself or even God. When you feel anger or fear, it's your mind and body's way to get you to fight or to get away from something it perceives as dangerous. When you feel excitement, it's your mind's request to move toward the thing making you feel excited. When you mindfully get in touch with what you are feeling without judging it, try to understand what the feeling is telling you, the feeling can do what it came to do in the first place, which is to give you information you can use to make a decision resulting in a behavior that can meet a need. In every feeling, there's a body sensation, there's a message, there's an unmet need, and there's an action tendency. I'm going to say that again. In every feeling, there's a body sensation, a place in your body you feel that feeling. There's a message it came to give you about something you've experienced. There's an unmet need that stimulated this feeling to begin with. And then there's an action tendency. It's trying to get you to do something so that you can meet the need. When you mindfully describe your feelings to yourself rather than getting caught up in them, the message is received, and you get to decide on what to do to meet your unmet need in a healthy way. And research has shown that 20 minutes of mindfulness practice each day is effective in reducing anxiety, pain, and depression associated with grief. Daily practice of mindfulness increases the activation in your prefrontal areas of your brain, which results in better emotional regulation in about 8 weeks. Prefrontal cortex is right here, and that's the part of your brain this actually helps. So, here are some examples of mindfulness practice. How many listen to music? If you listen to music, put it in the chat, say, yes, I do. Now, Stephanie, I know you listen to music. Listen, I don't know if you listen to anybody else's music, because your music's awesome. You don't need anybody else's music. You just create it. You show up, you just start singing, you're like, Steve, I am music. That's exactly right. But for the rest of us, less talented people, we've got to actually put something on to listen to music. But when you listen to music, most of us just kind of listen to music and just kind of go about our day. It's almost like a noise filler for us after a while. But to listen to music in a mindful way, find yourself listening to every word that's being sung. On purpose, listen to the nuances in the chord progressions. Try to guess at what the different instruments are that are being played by listening to the music. You'll be amazed at just by doing this how much you're anchored in the present moment. And really that's all mindfulness is paying attention to something happening right now without judging it as good and bad, right and wrong. You know? Kelly, that's awesome. I love the fact that you do that.
I got a question about that, Steve.
Yeah.
What is it about music itself that brings relaxation? Like, my favorite music artist is Doobie Powell. And so he is a gospel artist, but his style is like neo soul, jazz, fusion, all in one. And every time I listen to his music, it's soothing. Like it really, I mean, first of all, I love jazz. Jazz is like one of my favorite things to listen to, but it's like it's anointed, it's soothing. Like if I had a stressful day, I'm putting them on some Doobie Powell. And it just calms my nerves. It just what would you could you speak to that a little bit and I
You know,
digress.
I no, I don't know. I think it'd be different for everybody specifically, right? Because I might listen to the same music that you listen to, and I might go,
That didn't do nothing for me.
that
Right.
didn't do nothing for me. I might listen to music, and Kelly does this all the time, but Kelly might look at this and go, that doesn't do anything for me, right? I think it's the enjoyment factor. We're involved in it, but I think it's also mindfulness. Because you enjoy it, your mind is fully immersed in it. And whenever your mind is fully present, peace is the result,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
If you think about what causes anxiety in a thinking pattern, in a mind pattern? Thinking about things to come that are unfinished and out of my control.
Mm.
So when my mind goes to the future and I start thinking about what is still to come and what is beyond my control, what I still have to do, all of those things cause anxiety. If you look at depression is typically about thinking about the past and things that I regret. Now, what can I control about things that I regret from the past?
Nothing.
Nada. What can I control about things that are out of my control in the future? Nothing. Not until I get there. The only thing I actually have any amount of control over is what is right now. Right? And I think this is actually the point. This is actually one of the points that God was trying to make. If you think about Moses in the burning bush, and Moses is sitting there probably stuttering, probably with a speech impediment, saying, I just killed an Egyptian in front of the Israelites just to watch him die, and they were not appreciative, and they called me a murderer, and they're afraid of me, and I'm never going to be able to lead these people. You're going to have to give me something good so I can tell it to them, so they will think that you actually sent me, right?
Yeah.
And then God says to him, tell them, and by the way, I'm going to give you a new name for me, Moses. Tell them the I am has sent you. The I am that I am. And if you think about that, if I was Moses, I probably would have said, God, you got anything else? I mean, I'm not really sure that they're going to react to this I am that I am. Tell them the I am that I am sent me. But if you think about what he said, I am. Not I was, not I will be, I am. I think his point was, I'm the God who will always be present with you in the sanctity of the right now. And if you think about what he was saying to them specifically is, I'm not the God that will be with you once you're free. I'm the God that's with you right now while you're not free. See me in your midst right now, in the midst of what's happening in the now. Don't always be waiting for me to come at a future date. I'm here right now. So when we focus on things that are happening right now, we actually put ourselves in touch with the Father's voice again. Let me ask you this. If there are
Wow.
times when we lose the Father's voice, and all of a sudden we're just like, look, I just can't hear him, I guarantee one of two things have happened. One of three things has happened. Either God is pulled back so that he can mature you. We call that the dark night of the soul or the winter season. Or your mind has drifted to thinking about the future, or your mind has become consumed with thinking about the past. When we think about the past and when we think about the future, we are putting our soul, our mind, will, and emotions in a time frame that God is not speaking to us in. He's always speaking to us right now.
Ooh.
So it's amazing when we get into the sanctity of the right now through mindfulness, all of a sudden his voice is just there. We become a part of a conversation that he's been having with us all along. We just weren't receiving what was actually being sent. You know, I learned this, actually, I was practicing yoga. My wife is a yoga instructor. And so she practices yoga, not the religion of yoga, that's a different thing, the stretching of yoga. And I'm not a person that enjoys working out. She is. I am not. Pray for her. She's been trying to get me to work out for years. It hasn't taken yet. One of these days, maybe. We'll see. Baby, if you're watching, I'm sure tomorrow it'll start. But I was doing yoga and I was on the mat, and a large part of yoga is just being present in the moment with what's happening right in front of you. And all of a sudden, God starts speaking to me like crazy. And I was like, okay, number one, I'm doing yoga. If my pastor friends knew that I was doing yoga, they'd probably think I was going to hell. And then all of a sudden, all of God's voice is right there. His presence falls in this place. I changed nothing other than being present in that very moment. That's it. My focused attention on what I was doing in that moment gave God the opportunity, and he came running to me and started speaking in words that I could understand. So mindfulness puts us into the frame of mind that allows our brain to receive the conversation that he's been having the entire time. So if you notice that all of a sudden God's not speaking, we need to ask ourselves one of three questions. The first two we have some control over. Has my mind become consumed with what the Bible calls the cares of this world? Has my mind become consumed with what is to come? Has my mind become consumed with what was? If so, I can drag my brain back to this present moment, and all of a sudden I'm in touch with what God's been saying again. Or is this a season where God has pulled back a little bit so that I can test out a little bit of what he's already told me in my life, so that I can live it out a little bit? Right? But if it is my mind being consumed with the future or with the past, I can do something about that, and this is an example. When you listen to music, listen to every word. Don't let it become white noise in the background. When you eat, now listen, I grew up in a home with 3 boys, and my dad is an Irishman, and he loves to eat. And the truth is, if you didn't eat your food fast, he'd eat your food for you after he was done with his food. So we all learned to scarf down our food. But here's what I've learned with mindful eating. When you eat mindfully, I think it's going pretty good. I'm just kidding. I'm playing.
I'm sorry.
All right.
My husband just walked in. He was talking to me in the background. I thought I had muted myself, but maybe everything was...
No! Hey, listen. Tell Eric I said hi.
Steve said hi. She said, hey. Y'all can't beat this on Monday Manna.
No! I love it.
Those kind of conversations.
I love your hubby. That's for sure.
He said, I love your hubby.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Good guy. Yes, he is.
So when you eat mindfully, instead of doing what I was socialized to do growing up and just shoving it in so nobody else has a chance to eat what's on your plate, instead notice the shape of the food, the colors, the textures. Take time to smell it before you put it in your mouth. When you put it in your mouth, roll it around in there and see, what does the textures feel like? What are the tastes? Wonder to yourself, I wonder what they put in this. It keeps you in the present moment. It doesn't have to be complex to be meaningful. It just has to anchor your brain in the present moment in a way that's non-judgmental.
I got another question.
Yeah.
I'm a question queen today, sorry.
No, that's good.
Hey, so to go back to your mindfulness piece, would would you equate it to when Peter was walking on water and he was mindful of Jesus, everything was straight, right? But then when he started focusing on all the stuff he couldn't control, the wind, the waves, realized, oh, I'm walking on water.
Yep.
Because at the moment, he began to sink because he stopped being mindful of what he should have been mindful about and mindful on.
I think 2 things happened in that moment. One was, yes, absolutely. He became unmindful and he started to look at the cares of this world. He started putting his attention to the wind and the waves. I think number 2, though, what he did is he started to become his own authority again. As long as Jesus was the authority and Jesus was the one giving him power to walk on the wind and to walk on the waves through the wind, he was able to walk on the waves. But all of a sudden, when he started to doubt his own ability to walk on the waves, which he never had to begin with, by the way, when he became his own authority again, I don't have the ability to walk on the water, was probably his thought, and he began to sink. When he trusted in Jesus alone to give him the power he needed for what was right in front of him, he walked on water. Think about that. Listen, I can barely walk on the ground smoothly, okay? This man walked on the water just by keeping his attention on Jesus, trusting in him to give him the power. So I think definitely those two things I can see in that story for sure.
Oh, that's deep. I love that. Okay, I digress.
No, don't digress. It's good. So, when you drive home, and this happens to me all the time, by the way. It shows me how dissociative I really can get. When you drive to the same place over and over again, how many of you have driven somewhere, and it's somewhere you go every single day, and then you realize by the time you get there that you really haven't been aware of anything between home and that place? You show up at work, not surprised that you're there, but wondering, what did I miss along the way? I'm not sure I really remember stopping at the light because my mind was so consumed with other things. So with driving, you can drive mindfully by taking a different route home each time. It causes you to have to stay engaged in the driving process. And that is also an exercise in mindfulness and creating new neural pathways. So I want to bring you through a mindfulness exercise right now so that we can actually practice this. I'm assuming, since none of us can fly or levitate, that we are sitting on some structure, right? And I'm assuming that that structure is holding you up. Okay, so you might be lying down, you might be sitting down, but wherever you are, I just want you to close your eyes, and I just want you to notice, what does it feel like to be sitting or lying on whatever it is that you're sitting and lying on? I want you to focus on breathing in deeply. I want you, as you breathe in deeply, I want you to listen to the sounds. What does it sound like to have air fill your lungs? What does it sound like as the air leaves your mouth and comes out into the atmosphere around you? What does it sound like to hear the ice maker in the background of my home? Just kidding. Somebody just turned that on, just at the right moment, right? But what does it feel like to have the weight, your weight, supported by the seat that you're in? All of a sudden, we're starting to focus on things that are immediately present in this very moment, right? And if you're able to just focus on what does it feel like to the sound of breath coming in and out, what does it feel like to even just find your feet flat on the floor? What does it feel like to have your feet flat on the floor? Wiggle your toes around. What are the sensations that go through your feet as you wiggle your toes on the ground? What does it feel like to have something sturdy underneath your feet? All of those things are mindfulness things. Keeps our mind anchored in the sanctity of the right now. Right? So that is a mindfulness exercise. You can do that anywhere. Nobody would even know that you're doing it. And so you can do that literally anywhere you are. And then deep breathing is another relaxation exercise that can be paired with it, where you just breathe through your nose and then hold your breath to a slow count of 2 or 3, and then breathe out through your mouth. And then breathe normally for a second, and then repeat the process. And when you breathe in, make sure you focus on what you're doing. Don't be thinking about other things that have been happening throughout the day. Focus on what does it sound like and what does it feel like to be going through what I'm going through right now. But I want to, because a lot of the things that cause us to grieve actually occur in relationships, I want to talk about forgiveness for a moment. Because forgiveness is a huge part of the grieving process. But forgiveness is a very controversial topic because the church teaches a lot of stuff about forgiveness. But some of the stuff is unclear, some of it is contradictory. Sometimes it's really just, you should forgive. And you're like, okay, how? What does it mean to forgive? What does it mean when I forgive? If I forgive, does it mean I have to trust the person again? If I forgive, does it mean I have to reconcile the relationship that I was in? What does forgiveness actually mean? What are the components to it? So I want to talk a little bit about forgiveness because forgiveness is actually a huge part of the grieving process. I want you to think of grieving, in a sense, as completing an incomplete relationship. Completing an incomplete relationship. And so because grieving is completing an incomplete relationship, forgiveness is a part of the process. And so let me start by saying this. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we forget what happened. That is impossible, right? So I've heard people say, if I remember what happened, does that mean I didn't really forgive? And my answer is always the same. It doesn't mean you didn't forgive. It means that your memory is working as it should. Memory is permanent. You always remember things that happen. So forgiving is not forgetting. Forgiving doesn't mean that what was done was okay. Forgiving does not mean that it didn't matter. Forgiveness is simply this, in a very simple sense. Forgiveness is giving up the hope of a different or better yesterday. Forgiveness is giving up the hope of a different or better yesterday. And successful recovery from grief requires the completion of pain rather than the retention of resentment. Resentment actually shuts your spirit down and stops your pain from being released. If you look at resentment, which is unforgiveness, resentment actually causes somebody to rent a room in your brain that they are not paying for. It keeps them close to you rather than lets them go. Forgiveness is designed to set us free. It does not set the other person free. Only God can do that. Forgiveness is choosing to release the other person from the debt they owe me to help me heal from what they did. I'll say that again. Forgiveness is choosing to release the other person from the debt they owe me to help me heal from what they did. And this is what really sets us free. Forgiveness is choosing to release them from this responsibility and look to God alone for healing. God will still hold them accountable even if you don't. Resentment and a lack of forgiveness keeps the other person in your heart and life, and they take up space they don't deserve. Forgiveness, I'm going to say this 1,000 times today, it sets you free. It sets me free. The other person is still accountable to God for what they did or didn't do, and He gets to decide how He applies grace and mercy. Forgiveness starts with an action and your emotions follow. When forgiveness is verbalized to an empathic witness, it sets you free and your emotions can now follow. And sometimes we need to forgive others. Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves. And this is going to sound crazy, okay? Because it sounded crazy when this occurred in my life. But sometimes we even need to forgive God. Sometimes we need to forgive God. I remember the year was 2003, and my world fell apart. My world as I knew it literally fell apart. And I remember by 2005, I thought I was fine. And I remember in 2005, 2 years after this event had occurred, and everything in my life had settled down again, I remember I was mowing the lawn. I was doing something mindful. I was mowing the lawn and concentrating on what I was doing. I was minding my own business. And I felt like God dropped into my heart the words, "Will you forgive me?" And I thought, because my theology did not accommodate that. So I said to him, "You didn't do anything wrong." And God simply said to me, "I'm well aware. However, will you forgive me anyway?" The God of the universe cared so much about his relationship with me. His next words to me were, "I miss you. I need you to forgive me so you can come back home." Think about that. He would humble himself, knowing he did nothing wrong, and ask me to forgive him. Because I was secretly, unbeknownst to me by the way, blaming him for what happened to me 2 years earlier. Because while this happened to me in my life, I was serving him. I was studying to become a counselor. I was focusing on helping people heal. And he didn't warn me that this thing was going to happen. He didn't warn me that it was happening. And I found out by surprise. Now, for you, surprises may be no big deal. I'm the kind of person surprises are painful to me. If you want to literally kill me, throw me a surprise party. Kid you not. I know that sounds crazy. It is crazy. My wife tried to throw me a surprise party year 1 of our marriage, and I was like, "Why do you hate me?" Because I like to know what to expect. I just do. And it's so true. It's awful. But we sometimes, it taught me that my theology did not incorporate this at the time, so I knew it couldn't be me. It taught me that God loves us so much that he would want us to forgive him because there was a distance between us. And he doesn't want distance between us. So sometimes we need to forgive God. Even though he did nothing wrong, he didn't sin against us, forgiving him brings us closer to him again. So forgiveness. All right. We are almost done. Can you guys hang in there for about 5 more hours? I've just got 15 more hours. Listen, it's an all-night marathon with Dunleavy and family. It's all good. No, I've got 2 more points. 15 on the high side. No, I've got 2 more points. Can we hang in there? Okay.
This is good, Steve. Go for it.
Good. I want to talk about the value of lament, especially if it's a lament in the presence of an empathic witness. Notice there's a common theme here. We're going to get to healthy community in a minute, where I'm going to define what healthy community actually is. What are we looking for in an empathic receiver? I'll define that in a minute, but first let's talk about lament. Many of our emotions need unfiltered expression for someone to hear them, validate them, and honor them for them to become resolved. If you always have to be filtered in the presence of people around you, some emotions will not resolve. They will not go away. They will constantly be yelling at you that I have a message for you to receive. There's an unmet need here, and I want to move you forward so that you can meet this need. That's why emotions come. It'll keep doing that because it lays unresolved, because some emotions need unfiltered expression for people to validate them and hear them. Think about how many times David cried out in pain to God in an unfiltered, raw way in the Psalms, asking God to take revenge for what was done to him. And just as an aside, David, I think, had a very interesting writing style, because it was always, God, don't I want to kill people that don't like you? And don't I wish they would like gnash their own teeth out and maybe like, I don't know, jump on a grenade and just blow up? And then he would always end the same way. He would always end with, but God, you are almighty, and whatever you want to do, you feel free to do. And I will love you forever. And I'm like, well, how did that arc in the story was really severe, It's like, I want to kill them, I want them to die, God, you're amazing. Okay. But he had unfiltered expression, and guess what? Out of everything that was ever written, God decided to include these in his written word. These are songs, by the way, that were written to express his pain in a very unfiltered way. If anybody doesn't think they're unfiltered, you got to read them again. It was unfiltered. He was not worried about a social veneer. He was not wearing a mask. He didn't even know how to find a mask. And God included these in his authoritative word, his inerrant word, so that we could benefit from them thousands and thousands of years later.
I got a question about that too, because he wrote stuff, but also in the Psalms, to your point, it was like prayer songs, if you will.
Yes.
Like, I don't like my enemies. Get them, blow them up. Lord, you're awesome.
Yes.
Do you think the writing of the songs was therapeutic for him? Like
Absolutely.
music with the words, with the grieving, with all of that. I mean, Saul, who he considered to be like a father figure, betrayed him.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure. Absolutely is therapeutic for him. I think there's no doubt about it. Go ahead.
And we have another question whenever you desire to answer it. Charlene is asking, also, do you have thoughts on loss of a twin? That's her brother.
Yeah.
She said this is her first time not being able to handle grief.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I don't know if I think I mentioned this at the beginning. I have twins. And there's just a bond with twins that's not the same as other siblings.
It's not.
I mean, if you really think about it, you share space before either one of you is aware you're sharing space. And so I think having the loss of a twin brother, the truth is there's a connection there that can't be quantified by science, right? And so imagine if you had half of your body removed, how would you even figure out how to grieve through that? Right? How would you function? If you were cut in half and you only had one of everything, how would you function? How would you learn to live again? It would be a huge process of learning how to live without this person in your life that you probably leaned on for a lot of things, right? So grieving would be very difficult. And the easier thing to do would be to avoid the grief, and no one would blame you for doing that if you did. The courageous thing is to face it, but you need certain skills to be able to face it, like mindfulness. Lament is the thing, and this is where lament comes in actually. Lament causes us to face certain things that move us through the grieving process. Lament is kind of like facing the sucky part of grief, right? It's, no, this is bad. It doesn't soft soap anything. A lament says, as bad as I think this is, it's probably worse. And that is truth. At the end of a lament, we always need to come back and say, but God, I'm thankful that you're with me. Because if you weren't, I wouldn't even be able to stand up right now. I wouldn't even be able to walk. The truth is, the little bit that I'm able to do and function in my life, it's only because of you. But this stinks. This is really, really bad. Right? And that's what lament does. It causes us to be able to face the things that we are going to miss. Yeah, waking up empty makes sense. That's a part of the grieving process. It's how do I learn, if you look at grieving in this sense, it's how do I learn how to live without you?
That's good, Steve. That's really good.
How do I learn who I am when you're not here? Right? Because we all define ourselves in our relationships, not absent of them. So when we lose someone who's close to us, especially a twin, but it could be any family member, we have to redefine ourselves. And that is a really tough thing to do. who am I without you? If we go through a divorce, who am I without you? Even if we wanted the divorce, who am I without you? It's a part of the recovery process. And that's a process that happens one step at a time, and it is not for the faint of heart, and it is not easy. It takes a lot of courage. And the truth is, facing the pain is important. And there will be times, and by the way, I know I mentioned a lot of the distractors earlier. I don't know a human being on earth that goes through grieving without some distractors. Distractors are not always bad. Distractors are sometimes, I'm not a diver, but my wife is actually a deep sea diver.
Your wife is many things. I love her.
Listen, my wife,
awesome.
if you ever get my wife on here, you're going to see, you'd get the better Dunleavy with her. That's for sure. She's amazing
Does she
in
speak
every way
too?
possible.
Does she
Oh,
speak too?
yeah.
Oh, I have to come and bring y'all on together. Next week, I'm bringing on a couple together. I will do that
Listen,
next time for
she
sure.
is amazing. She actually trained, she was a police officer, had to retire because she was injured in the line of duty. But then after she retired, through her own grieving process, she became a trainer for other police officers. And so she actually trained the entire Cleveland police departments in surrounding areas in a proper response to intimate partner violence.
Wow,
And so
that's impressive.
her mission was to teach them how to go into a scene, properly assess the scene, because honestly, a lot of police officers will go in, and the person who is most upset in intimate partner violence scenes is typically the person who was violated, not the person who did the violating.
That's true.
And
Ooh,
so, since they're the ones that are most upset in those moments, the police officer assumes they're just erratic, they're just irrational, and they blame them for the disturbance. So, she went in with the mission of helping them properly assess those situations so that they can make a true arrest, a good arrest of the actual perpetrator, right? And so she did that for a number of years. And so, yeah, she speaks. She's actually, I'm teaching a class on marriage and family right now at Ashland Seminary. She's teaching one of those course nights on intimate partner violence. She's amazing.
oh yeah, I'm gonna bring y'all back the next time together. Let's do
For
that.
sure.
I'm here for it.
Listen, you'll get the better Dunleavy there. That's for sure. Okay. I'm telling you the truth. She's awesome.
I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Charlene, you were talking, ministering to her about it's okay to grieve. And I want to say, well, I'm not a professional like you, but I've researched twins. But it's like from my research, it's like it's more than just a physical connection. It's spiritual, very much spiritual for the resource I've done. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm not Steve Dunleavy, or anything like that. But I can at least speak to the research I've done. There's a very, very, very strong bond, very, very strong
Oh,
connection that's more than physical, and even on it's like it's spiritual. It's almost kind of like almost
it's
like a
a,
soul tie.
it's a
Is what
soul tie. A
yes,
soul tie is
yes,
a good way to put that. Because
yes.
if you think about it, when our brains are forming, right? When our brains are forming in the womb, we are aware of sensations before we have language to categorize them. Now, for most of us, we share this experience with one other person called our mother. With twins, they don't just share it with their mother, they share it with the twin that they are in utero with. And so you can't quantify That's a connection you can't
I mean,
quantify.
I know somebody who is a twin, and it's like they don't get along,
Hmm.
and the one twin has always hated the other, and it's bad. I mean, it's still bad to this day,
Sure.
but that's
Yeah.
pretty deep.
Yeah, and that certainly can happen, and sometimes that's just because of familial influence. Maybe there's competition in the home, and maybe one was favored over the other. That kind of thing can cause that. But, most of the time, twins are thick as thieves. I mean, it's
Yes, I've
just
seen that
tight.
too. I've seen that
You
tightness.
know,
Hmm.
my kids, listen, they might kill each other, but if anybody else tried to hurt them, they'd cut somebody.
Oh, I like what Charlene said. She said we felt each other's always, even when she lived in California. She said in a
Isn't
different
that
state.
funny how that happens?
Yeah.
For sure. Yep. There's something that happens at a very ethereal level, for sure. Soul tie is a good way to put that, for
I digress.
sure. But oh, don't digress. This is good. Oh my lord.
That's my little dab dance. My husband and my son always laugh at me because I always love to dab. And my son be like, "Am I like, when you gonna get that dabbing up?" That was like 2019. I'm like, I'm gonna dab, and they laugh because when I do my little virtual performances with my kids, almost every performance you're gonna see my kids doing this dabbing.
Is
So
that right?
yes, a little dabbing to you. That's all I have to say. I
Listen,
digress.
you're cool enough to do it. I'm not sure I'm cool enough to pull that off. I couldn't make it look like you made it look. That's awesome.
Woo, woo wee.
So lament is essentially just an unfiltered letter. But it has to be read in the presence of an empathic witness because we have social wiring in our brains that will not release information. Think about this. The Bible says, confess your faults one to another so you can be healed. Why? Because we are socially wired, and there's something about the sharing of that is healing for us. All right, so the last thing I'll talk about, and then
And
I
you said
will
a
be...
letter? You mean like an actual writing out a physical letter to the person who was your offender? Like not maybe necessarily
Not
reading it to them, but just getting it out on paper.
correct. Yeah, so this is
Okay.
actually like a letter that you write that you never send to the person that you're writing it to, right? And in a lament, for it to be a lament, we get it out in an unfiltered way. And at the end of it, we might say something like, and I refuse to carry your pain any longer. I'm going to give it to God, right? We want to have some closure to that. That allows our emotional brain to shift,
Ooh.
right? We don't want to say, but it's okay. It's not okay. I refuse to carry your pain any longer.
What is it about that phrase specifically that gives that emotional release?
Well, if you think about it, it involves a little bit of anger, but not rage. Anger is the thing that allows us to get that thing out of us and put it back where it belongs, right? There's been, somebody said, and we've probably all heard this by this point, but somebody said that unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die,
Ooh.
right?
That's good.
But the truth is that when we have this pain on the inside of us, it feels like a poison. We need to get that out of us because it doesn't belong in us, right? And so if a lament is the result of betrayal, then a line like, I'm not going to carry your pain any longer, right? Or I refuse to carry your pain any longer, gets that out of us. If it's not a result of betrayal, we might say something like, but God, I'm going to trust you to heal what was stolen from me. Something that allows our emotional brain to see the hope of change.
Would you say the enemy works a lot in betrayal, like with the whole grieving? I mean, when I think about things like divorce, when people are cheated on, or just betrayal, period, or feeling lied on or misrepresented, like the enemy tries to reside there, like you said, to keep us locked into our grief. And it seems to me that that is one of the largest strategic tactics, not his only tactic, but one of the largest strategic tactics that he uses to try to keep people bound and entangled with unforgiveness, bitterness, and just stuck, like you said, in the grief.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it goes all the way back to the beginning. Think about the Genesis story, right? Did God really say? And then he used half-truths and lies, right? And then betrayal. If you look at what happened, Adam was standing right there with Eve while all of this is happening, just allowing the whole thing to happen. I mean, church people sometimes blame Eve, but I'm like, Adam was standing right there. It says she turned and gave him the fruit to eat.
That's true. He didn't have to eat
He
it.
he wasn't far. He was right there,
That's true.
right? The whole time. And then what happened right after that happened? God said, "What did you do? What did Eve say or Adam say? I don't know, God. I was standing here minding my own business, and the woman that you
Ooh.
gave me this fruit to eat." Right? They blamed. And then what did Eve say? I don't know, God. I was here minding my own business, and the snake that you made.
That you
Right?
made.
Exactly. Both
Hmm.
of them said, the woman that you made, the snake that you made, they were blaming the other person and God. And the truth is, that is a betrayal. Think about how you'd feel if you were Eve standing there and Adam is shirking responsibility, right? And then how would you feel if you were Adam sitting there and watching her blame God and the snake, right? Both shirking responsibility. Betrayal has been a part from the very beginning, and getting people to betray each other and turn on each other, including God, has been a part of his strategy from the very beginning,
Mm,
for
mm,
sure.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
I
And
digress, for
he,
real.
no, and he whispers in our ears and says things to us that make us betray people, even in ways that we otherwise would not have.
Mm.
And then when we do, then he comes in and goes, "They had that coming, didn't they? Yep, keep that going." It's what he does.
I want to acknowledge Deanna. She said she lost her mom due to COVID-19. We are so sorry for your loss. You really,
Oh,
really are.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely too common a story for sure, and I'm so sorry that you lost your mom for sure. Okay, so engaging in healthy community. Isolation is a natural temptation in grief, but we are designed to function in community. Other people can help us heal. The problem is that most of our pain is caused as a result of unhealthy community. We need to find healthy community so we can heal. We need an empathic witness to our pain in order to resolve it. A healthy community is this. A healthy community is a non-judgmental group of people who feel no need to fix us or control us to meet their own needs. They simply listen and witness our pain, not trying to make it go away. I'm going to say that one more time. A healthy community is a non-judgmental group of people who feel no need to fix us or control us. If people fix us, what does that mean we are? Do you fix things that are working well? Nope. We only fix things that are broken. So the moment somebody tries to fix us, it means that we're broken. There's something wrong with us. Right? So if you want to make somebody feel like there's something wrong with them, try to fix them. It is the fastest way to get there. So they feel no need to fix us. They feel no need to control us to meet their own needs. They simply can listen and witness our pain without trying to make it go away. Now, finding a healthy community is important, but developing a healthy community is better. And that begins with us deciding to be a healthy community for other people. And so now, what happens when we don't grieve? When we don't grieve, disappointment leads to denial. When it is stuffed, then depression, disconnection, loss of hope, cynicism, isolation, frozen rage, unexpressed anger over a loss may be responsible for depression and anxiety, and unexpressed emotions may cause physical problems, addictions, and disconnection from ourselves, others, and God. So here is a process for grieving, that I sometimes teach people, and I'm going to end with this. But let me say this first, and then I'll give you the process. Learning how to grieve losses is foundational to our well-being, and we're taught how to not grieve. I want to remind us that Jesus stands at the door and he knocks. And when we avoid pain, we're not in the room that he's knocking on. So we can't open the door to a room that we are not in. Grieving requires an empathic receiver, and that empathic receiver can sometimes be just Jesus himself. Most of the time it has to be somebody with skin on, but sometimes it does not. Sometimes Jesus decides to show up personally so that we don't need an empathic witness that is not him. So here's the process of grieving. We want to identify what was lost. We want to ask ourselves, we want to go a little bit deeper than just what was lost. We want to ask ourselves and ask God, what does it mean to me that I lost this? You want to express your feelings before the Lord, much like my dog is doing in the background right now. Don't you hear him expressing his feelings openly to Jesus? This is real here, people. I'm at home and it's real. It's just the way it goes. I don't know what he's barking at, but he's barking at something. So we want to ask ourselves, what does it mean that I lost this? We want to ask God, what does it mean to me that I lost this? We want to express our feelings before the Lord in an unfiltered way about the disappointment we've experienced. And because many of the issues we need to grieve occur in relationships, forgiveness may need to be a part of that process as well. And so when you look at the grieving process, this is how we actually face our feelings. One feeling at a time, one event at a time. When something comes up to mind, we ask ourselves, what did I lose? What did it mean to me that I lost this? Was it a loss of connection? Was it a loss of trust? Was it a loss of wholeness? Was it a loss of freedom? What was it a loss of dignity? What was it the thing that I lost? And then I expressed to the Lord my feelings openly in an unfiltered way about what I lost. And then forgiveness may need to be a part of that as well. That's about all I have to say about that. And my dog's going to keep barking.
Steve, this was amazing.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, you guys, first I'm going to open it up if anybody has any questions for Steve, and then I am going to prophesy to, I would say at least 5 people tonight. And if anybody wants an overflow, they can register on Patreon, give me a private message, and we can talk about that. So, go ahead. If you guys have any questions, you guys can go ahead and put them in the comments. And I will put the questions on the screen for Steve. If you want the word, write W. I will at least try to prophesy to at least 5 people tonight. And I think we're going to go ahead. Anybody have any questions that they want to ask about grieving or anything? In the meantime, while you guys are putting up your questions, Steve is Chief Officer over Renewed Counseling Ministries. And yes, he's the chief, my husband corrected me, Chief Executive Officer. The chief. Yes. So you guys, if you want to register for counseling, you guys can go to registration at ReneeSC.com. This is the telephone number that you guys can look at and call if you want to schedule an appointment. If you refresh this broadcast, which means if you come out and come right back in, you'll see all of his information for Renewed in there. While we're doing this, if you want to sow into Steve for his ministry tonight, what you're going to do, I know it says his name with my Cash App, but let me explain. So it has his name, but just to make everything simple, just go to Cash App. In the Cash App notes, put Steve in the note, okay, to Steve. I'm going to take all the Cash Apps and I'm going to Zelle it to him because he does Zelle. So to keep it simple, Cash App me. Write a note in the Cash App to Steve. All right, so I know that's for Steve. Okay. I will take all the Cash Apps and forward it over to Steve via Zelle. So if you want to sow into his ministry tonight, you can. If you want to schedule an appointment, these are the apparatuses you can do so. If you come out and come back in, you'll see in the comments what you can do. If you also, as we're getting the questions in, would like to, if you want to schedule an appointment, yes, that's the way you can do it because I'm getting some questions. Um, and also, if you're out of state, because I know I have some people out of state in other countries, he does what's called pastoral counseling and coaching for those people because of the licensing parameters for counseling in the state of Ohio. So that is available if you're out of the state or also out of the country. He is certified to be a pastoral counselor for you abroad if you're international or outside the state of Ohio. And you will find that information on the website that I posted in the comments. So like I said, you got to come back in and go out and come back in to see that in the actual post at the top of the page. All right. So we have one question coming in by Dr. Rhonda McNeil for Steve that says, what do you do when you feel stuck? What do you do when you feel stuck?
Yeah, so typically, and we're going to hear my dog serenading us in the background a little bit, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
When you're feeling stuck, sometimes that is evidence that you might need the help of somebody else. Right? Because when we exhaust our own resources, sometimes that's the feeling that tells us that we've exhausted our own resources. So I would say when you're feeling stuck, maybe reach out for help from someone. And it doesn't, I know that sounds self-serving because I'm here as a clinician with my own counseling center, but trust me when I say that's not why I'm saying that. But feeling stuck can actually mean that the grief, if it's about grief, the grief has become complicated, which actually means that grief is piled on top of grief to the point where it's hard to just tease it apart on your own the way that you would be able to if it was just a single incident grieving. So what's this?
Mute the whole time.
I know, I couldn't hear you. I was like, maybe I'm the only one that can't hear you.
And y'all couldn't hear nothing I said. Womp, womp. So I believe Dr. Rhonda is saying this, and Dr. Rhonda, please either confirm or bring clarity in the chat. But she's saying, the same person who's saying that she feels stuck, it sounds like she's working on a book that she's talking about some of these traumatizing experiences that maybe she had in her life. Is that correct, Dr. Rhonda? If not, or if please confirm in the chat or the comments to let us know so I can so Steve can speak directly to.
Right. Yeah. Is the stuckness related to the sore spot, and is the sore spot from your own history? That's correct.
So you're saying that's correct, right? About it being you're stuck about this book you're writing out traumatizing experiences, Dr. Rhonda? I know it's like this delay. They hear me, but the internet, the airways, it just takes a couple seconds for it to travel to them.
No, that makes sense.
Childhood trauma.
Yeah. So here's why people feel stuck when their own childhood trauma gets reactivated. Let's say that. The emotional brain, and I'm going to get into more the trauma side of things than grief side of things. The emotional brain only speaks 3 languages, and English is not one of them. So no matter how much we think ourselves through, no matter how much we talk ourselves through, the emotional brain kind of just feels like it's not shifting. It's just stuck in place. And there are specific techniques that professionals can use, myself included, that speak the language of the emotional brain to help the emotional brain resolve what occurred and put it in long-term storage where it belongs. As long as it is not in long-term storage, it is triggerable, and people tend to feel stuck in that place. A part of the problem is that regular talk therapy does not work to resolve the emotional traumas that exist in the emotional brain. And by the emotional brain, I mean specifically in the amygdala. You actually have two amygdala, one on either side in both lobes, and they control the fight, flight, and freeze response, but they also embed memory with only emotional significance, right? So when we have traumatic things that happen to us at any age, our amygdala releases a chemical that's called cortisol, and we all know cortisol is a stress hormone. But cortisol slows down digestion and some other things. What cortisol also does, though, is cortisol shuts down the prefrontal cortex, which is right here, and shuts down the hippocampus, which is back here, which sounds innocuous, but what it really means is that this memory gets embedded inside of your brain, in all of our brains, with only emotional significance, devoid of any logic or context. Because those two parts of the brain that would add logic and context into it are turned off by cortisol. And there are specific techniques that help a person process the bits and pieces of data that got stored in the amygdala and helps the amygdala put it away. But it's not typically something that people can do on their own, because it really speaks a very specific language, and the language is not English. I wish it was. If words could do it, or if thoughts alone could do it, I'd be the first person saying, think the following thoughts, say the following words, and this will be taken care of. Now here's the great news, Dr. Rhonda. Healing from these things doesn't have to take years. When we unlocked the coding of the emotional brain, it really only takes a little while for that to occur if we target the right events, right? And so I actually had a woman that was having terrible panic attacks, and she was stuck in her panic attacks every time she heard the police or a dog barking. And by the way, if dog barking is one of yours, I apologize profusely for this dog of mine that sounds like he's very big, but he's actually very small. But she had panic attacks every time the police came by, every time there was a siren, every time she saw a uniform. And she came into my office with this story because her son was wrongfully so held at gunpoint by the police, who broke into her apartment, and she showed up on the front door with the police in her house, gun pointed at her son. She was yelling, "You've got the wrong house," and her son was not harmed, thank goodness, but she had panic attacks ever since that day. That day was about 10 years prior to me seeing her. I saw her and did some of these techniques that work with the emotional brain, and in 50 minutes, not even a full hour, 50 minutes, she never had a panic attack again. Kid you not. So it doesn't have to take years, but you do have to have somebody that understands the language of the emotional brain. Now, does it always happen in 50 minutes? No. This was a single incident event that became lodged. It was easier to dislodge because it was a one-time event. Things that take place over and over again are a little more difficult, but they still don't have to take years. And one of the techniques that I use with people is actually called formational prayer. Formational prayer is where we invite Jesus into our imaginal space. And imagination doesn't mean fake. Imagination means something we picture in our brains. If I was to ask each of you to picture an orange, can you picture an orange? Of course, we've all seen an orange. We can picture an orange. Are oranges real? Yes, oranges are real, right? Just because we picture it in our brains doesn't mean that they don't exist. right? So we use emotional brain technology to invite Jesus in, and then I'm literally just following Jesus as much as I am leading the process and looking for benchmarks to lead people through that process. So, so I hope that answered the question. But emotional brain logic is not logical, and it takes using the irrational logic of the emotional brain to unlock those synapses so that the person can get unstuck.
Now, Steve, could you speak briefly to this? Because I did not start learning about this until recently, within like the last 2 years, that when it comes to counseling, there are different um, specialties or methodology or practices, I should say. Because, prior to like 2 years ago, I only thought there were like conversational therapy. But you mentioned, and I would like for those in the audience who really are not necessarily familiar, and if you could explain to them like the different types, like the trauma. Well, I think it's EDRM. I might be messing up the letters, the order of them.
It's
But if you
okay.
could just kind of explain to them the different types, the specialties, so they can have a better understanding. I think that'll help my audience, because there's sometimes a stigma, and I'll say especially in the African American community with counseling, because a lot of times people just think, oh, I'm going to go to this counselor and just talk. And it's for
For
me,
sure.
I can say for myself, with all the trauma I've experienced going through a divorce, having a father has been verbally abusive, have dealt with a lot of grieving, a lot of loss, a lot of betrayal. That you, all types of forms. There's different tools. That's been a blessing to me. Even when you said in the former slide about having a healthy community, divorce care was one of my healthy communities when I was facing divorce.
Absolutely.
Not to feel like I had to go through it by myself, because I went through a very unique situation that was very different. And I thought I was the only one going through that. But when I went to divorce care and I was able to talk out loud specifically about my experiences, I met somebody else who was dealing with the exact same thing with their spouse that they were getting ready to divorce. So if you could maybe elaborate on that a little bit more, I
Sure.
digress.
No, absolutely, for sure. So there are a few basic camps that therapists fall into. One is insight oriented, which is essentially people walking into an office, talking sporadically through free association, and the therapist is there as the expert to read into what you're saying. This would be a person that would interpret dreams, would interpret slips of the tongue, things like that. And then there's cognitive behavioral therapy, which is essentially what most talk therapies fall into. And that's where people help you to challenge your own thoughts. And we have biblical evidence for that. That's not wrong. It's not bad. All of these work. It's just a matter of how long does it take them to work, and what do they work for, right? And so cognitive behavioral therapies are more talk therapies where you talk to somebody about your problems. They would challenge certain beliefs, challenge certain behaviors, help you to change behaviors. But it's done very, very much from like an outside-in approach, where you are starting from the outside and you're moving in and hoping that the change lasts a long time. I'm actually a certified cognitive behavioral therapist. And then you have experiential therapies, and experiential therapies are in a number of different camps. I'm also certified in formational prayer, which is an experiential therapy, right? And then I'm also trained in EMDR, which is an experiential therapy. And so experiential therapies give you a different experience with the hope of overriding the old experience. And that's actually the one that works best with the emotional brain. If I learn something through an experience, there's no learned truth that's going to overwrite that experience. I have to experience the truth in order for it to change that experience. So if we look at biblically, you will know the truth, and the truth will
Make you free.
make you free. And that's the way we read it in English, right? You will
Yes.
know the truth, and the truth will make you free. And when we think of that in our very Greco-Roman culture, we hear you will understand the truth, and once you fully understand the truth, then that truth will set you free. But if you look at the actual Greek language that was used, the word gnosko was used for know. And what that means is you will experience the truth in your thoughts and your feelings, and your experience of the truth will set you free.
Hmm.
That's the literal interpretation of that.
So
So,
you think that deals with subconscious when your subconscious brain, your emotional brain understands and gets the revelation of the truth, then that's going to set you free, not your
ex-
logical brain, your emotional
experientially,
brain. Oof.
experientially, right? So this is not through like a teaching like this, right? Through a teaching like this, everybody's cognitive brains right now are lit up, right? And your cognitive brains are going, hopefully, hey, that's a good point. I want to write that down. Or I'm not sure I agree with this. Or that's okay. His dog barking was the best part of the whole thing. I'm just totally playing. So your cognitive brains, though, are formulating all these ideas about what I'm saying. But until I use an experiential technique, your emotional brain is not really active. Your emotional brain is kind of sleeping and it's waiting to be triggered again, right? And so, through a process, Stephanie, you mentioned EMDR. Through a process of EMDR, we actually activate the emotional brain, and then we use free association and other techniques. And I had a client the other day say, you know what? Some of the things that I thought during the EMDR process, I've had those thoughts before, but they never really stuck. He goes, after EMDR, I now fully believe the things that I thought during that process. He goes, what happened and what did you do to me? And I was like, I didn't do anything to you. The truth is, what you knew to be true now became what you felt to be real.
Ooh,
There's
yes.
always a difference between what we know to be true and what we feel to be real, and what you feel to be real is always going to win.
Wow.
That's why Jesus taught in parables and stories. So I didn't tell you what the emotional brain's languages are. The emotional brain speaks in three languages. They are images, symbols, and experience. Now think about Jesus' life on earth. Images, he talked in stories all the time. Symbols, this bread is my body, this cup is my blood poured out for you. Experiences, he allowed his disciples to walk with him and experience everything he did. We already mentioned Peter walking on the water. If that's not an experience, I don't know what is. Everybody was there. We mentioned Lazarus being called forth. Everybody saw that happen and they experienced him going from death to life, right? So he spoke the language of the emotional brain and it transformed people's experiential lives. What they knew to be true became what they felt to be real. So if you've ever had an issue with that, where I know God says I am his beloved, I know he loves me completely, but when I fail, what I feel is that he's forgotten me, that I have not earned his favor, that he is mad at me, that he has abandoned me, and I've got to earn his favor back. What I know to be true, there's a process for it to become what I feel to be real. And that process is spoken through images, symbols, and experience. And if you go to a clinician that doesn't know that language, then it's not that it's not going to work. It's just going to take a lot longer for it to work, and the results may not last as long.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good, Steve. I really appreciate that. I think that's anybody else have any questions? If not, we're gonna move on to prophecy. I saw one person that said that they wanted a word. I'm gonna prophesy to a couple people. I'm gonna close out with prayer, and that'll be it for tonight. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start prophesying. If nobody else has any questions, hasn't this been awesome? Can we give some Steve some shout out love tonight, you guys? This has been
Well,
amazing.
thanks for having me, guys. I really
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes. All right, so Shannon, let me give you the word of the Lord. I hear the Spirit of the Lord say that he's moving you from an old place to a new place, meaning that in the spirit realm, that it's like the things that have held you down, the things that have hold you back, the things that have come to bring you a resistance, God is transitioning you from the old into the new. So just get ready, because this year, 2022, is a year of new beginning for you. Is what I hear the Spirit of the Lord say. Kamina, let me give you the word of the Lord. The first thing that the Lord told me to tell you is that the best is yet to come. I hear the Spirit of the Lord say, like, what the enemy meant for evil, he's getting ready to turn around for your good. So there's some things that you've been through in your life that most people would have lost their mind, but God kept you through it all. So God says that this new season is very unique for you, because I just see new opportunities, new favors, and I see like green fields, green pastures, new favor, new doors. I see 3 open doors. He's also showing me the month of April. That's going to be a very unique month for you of opportunities. So, and scaling. It's like I see whatever this is that you got, God is going to be scaling the work of your hands, scaling it, scaling it. That's what I hear the Spirit of the Lord say. Deborah, I hear the Spirit of the Lord say for you. He said, don't second guess yourself. Don't second guess when you hear God. He is speaking. He is speaking. He is telling you what you need to do. He is positioning you, and he's repositioning you for your next. So there are some people that are around you that are in your inner circle that you're going to have to let go of. And God's going to reveal, because everybody who's smiling your face is not for you, but he's going to reveal some hidden motives and secret agendas between the next 3 and 9 months. Between the next 3 and 9 months. Between the next 3 and 9 months. So just get ready. Faye, let me tell you what I hear the Lord say. This is the beginning of your new beginning. Out with the old and in with the new. Your life is getting ready to transform, not just for you, but for you and your house. God's heard your prayers. He's heard your cry, and he's getting ready to transition you into your next. So just get ready. You've been faithful. So God is getting ready to promote you because of your faithfulness. So he's going to promote you. I see some things that are going to be coming for your kids. Some promotions coming for them, some strategic and divine favor coming from them. And I see God dealing with generational curses, altars of the Father's house, ancestral altars. Inbox me. I need to send you the videos on that. Okay. Just inbox me to remind me to send that to you, Faye. Send me an inbox now and say, send me the video on altars. Somebody else had asked me for a word up there too. Okay. Let me make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. There was somebody who had asked way earlier for a word. I'm trying to scroll down up to see. There was so many comments to see who it was. Y'all enjoying this tonight? Is this being a blessing to y'all? Amen. All right. If you want a word, please write a W. All right, Sam. The first thing I heard God say is no more delay. No more delay. No more delay. There's some areas that you've been trying to get traction, but it's been some resistance. And the Lord is telling me to let you know it's been some spiritual resistance. But I hear the Lord say, as you continue to war in the spirit, and he told me to also send you these videos on altars, but as you continue to war in the spirit, it's like he's preparing your way, and you're going to be a trailblazer, and you're going to achieve things that no one else has been able to do in your family. God told me to send you these videos on altars. So please inbox me to remind me to send that to you. Lori, the first thing the Lord told me to tell you is that he's going to make your enemies your footstool. And he is going to prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. So some of the haters, some of those people that have been trying to sabotage, talk about, don't worry about it. Just you stay forward. You keep moving forward. You keep on moving. You keep moving forward, because what God has for you is greater than what you've ever experienced and greater than where you've ever been. So just get ready for that. Donalyn, great is your faithfulness. You've been faithful in praying. So you're going to start to see some strategic prayers answer within these next 3 to 6 months, within these next 3 to 6 months. So keep warring in the spirit. It is making a difference. Hi, Joy. Let me prophesy the word of the Lord to you. I just see the Holy Spirit flowing to you, refreshing you. giving you strength, giving you joy, strength for the journey, because your ladder will be greater. There's been a lot of warfare, a lot of things associated to some things you've gone through, and just you trying to move forward to get everything that God has for you, because you want everything. You don't just want some of it, you want all and everything. So continue to move forward, continue to pray, continue to fast. Those things that you're doing behind closed doors to honor God is not in vain. He sees that. He's keeping the record. He's getting ready to reward you openly. So just keep moving. There's also some things in the season that God is getting ready to download to you that you do not need to share. You need to move in silence with some of these things. I see some business stuff. I see some nonprofit things that are going to come into fruition, but move in silence. You cannot share everything with everybody, and use discernment. God's going to show you who you can share and who you can't, but I would move in stealth. Be as quiet as you can, and just get it done. Um Charlene, just lift your hands where you are. Guys, the Spirit of the Lord is saying He's releasing healing to you, favor and increase. And He's saying your ladder will be greater. Your ladder will be greater. And God is telling me to let you know that the witchcraft that has come to try to attack you, no weapon that's formed against you shall prosper. God is bringing you into a greater place in Him, in deeper place of prayer. I'm not saying that you're not already deep in prayer, but God is bringing you to another new, deeper realm in Him. So just rest in it. And God said you're going to begin to dream a lot more, and you might as well just go ahead and have your dream interpreted, because God is going to be downloading some fresh revelation, some fresh ideals, some witty visions, some things, some messages, some divine heavenly messages He wants to get to you by the means of dreams. All right, y'all. There was one more person I just wanted to prophesy to, because they had said all the way up in the comments that they wanted a word, but it was like all the way in the middle of the presentation. It's so many comments. So all right. I don't know where they are. It's too far up there. So you guys listen, thank y'all for tuning in. If you want an overflow, you guys can sign up for Patreon. And in the comments, you might have to refresh your page if you want to become a Monday Manna sponsor. Let's show Steve some love. This is the way you can give to Steve today. Cash App. You're gonna give it to me, but write a note to Steve, because he doesn't do Cash App. So it's just gonna be simpler. Give it to me, write a note and say for Steve in the Cash App if you desire to give. And then I'm going to take all the Cash Apps that y'all send if y'all decide to send sow tonight, and I'm going to Zelle it to him. So please, if you would like to sow into his ministry, Cash App, ReneeSC, Renewed Counseling Ministries. All their information's on the screen. If you want to register for counseling, you will go here at the email registration at renewedcm.com. The phone number is 234-867-5001. If you want to do Patreon, the comments are up there. I have a free resource, a free book that's in the comments. Once you refresh your page, you can download that. If you have any prayer requests and want to be added to my free email list, there's a link up there for that as well. So Steve, thank you so much for coming tonight. We love you and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
And we're going to bring you on again if you'd like to come, you and your wife, next time.
Anytime, my friend.
All right, you guys, it's Stephanie here with Monday Manna. If you need any clarity about what Patreon is, when the broadcast is over, just go back and do the replay. And I show a detailed video about that, about Patreon, how you can sign up. The links are up above in the comments. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.